Welcome to Wawa's Sandwire. Today we're talking about Anthony Loke's explanation on the school alcohol controversy and political trust within the unity government.
Ah, yes, this one. It really was quite the political storm, wasn't it? It all seemed to ignite right after Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim made that statement in Parliament.
The one saying government school premises shouldn't host activities with alcohol.
That's the one. A seemingly straightforward line, but politically, wow, it set off major tremors almost instantly.
Oh, absolutely. Shockwaves is the word. You saw this immediate, very fierce, negative pushback, especially, within the Chinese community and from their political leaders.
Understandably, the feeling was very strong that this was stepping on cultural customs, and that's always a tricky area in Malaysian politics.
Definitely dangerous ground.
And that really pushed Anthony Loke, the Secretary General of the Democratic Action Party, into damage control mode. He had a big job to do.
Two main things, right? Clear up the policy and also shoot down that conspiracy theory.
Exactly. That theory that Anwar had said it specifically to, politically sideswipe or embarrass the Democratic Action Party, Loke really wanted to kill that idea.
Yeah, let's dig into that theory a bit, because you can see why it took hold, given how sensitive the issue is. But Loke's counter-argument was quite logical.
He firmly denied any deliberate move by the PM to make DAP look bad or feel uncomfortable.
How did he frame that denial?
He basically argued from a position of political reality, which, let's be honest, is often the clearest lens. Loke laid out why it would be totally illogical for Anwar.
Okay.
Think about it. If Anwar had planned this to trip up DAP, and then just days later he had to publicly reverse course, which is what happened.
Right, the policy got clarified or reversed.
Precisely. Then Anwar himself would face a huge backlash from the Malay community. They'd see it as a major U-turn on a sensitive issue. Where's the win for him in that?
That's a really strong point. Risking your core support base just to score, a minor point against a coalition partner? In this unity government setup, it seems like a terrible gamble.
Exactly. High risk, almost zero reward. It just doesn't add up politically.
But doesn't the fact that it even happened suggest something's not quite right? Maybe not malice, like Loke argued, but maybe a serious problem with how they talk to each other internally?
Oh, it definitely points to a communication failure. Loke himself basically admitted that later. But he kept coming back to this core idea of mutual trust.
Between the Democratic Action Party and the Prime Minister.
Yes. He insisted that despite this hiccup, the partners weren't, actively trying to undermine each other, that the trust was still there.
Okay, so if it wasn't a deliberate political play, what did Luke say was the reason? What sparked the fire?
Well, Loke was quite open about it. He said he spoke directly with the Prime Minister right after the whole thing blew up. And his conclusion was pretty straightforward. Anwar's reply in Parliament just wasn't comprehensive enough, or maybe lacked precise explanation.
So poor communication, essentially. Rushed, maybe?
Yeah.
Ambiguous?
That's the gist. Delivered in Parliament, a very public and sensitive stage, it just wasn't clear enough. And that ambiguity accidentally lit the fuse.
Not comprehensive enough, feels like. Well, a massive understatement for something that nearly caused a coalition crisis.
You could say that, yes. Because remember, Anwar did try to soften it initially, saying it wasn't about taking away non-Muslim rights.
Right, he mentioned maintaining the school's essential nature as an educational place.
But that specific phrasing just clashed head-on with how things have been done for decades in many communities, established practice.
And the political reaction was immediate. You could almost hear the alarm bells ringing inside the Democratic Action Party.
Definitely. Their national advisor, Lim Guanang, who's also a member of parliament, he went public pretty quickly, and he used some very strong words.
What did he say?
He said Anwar's initial stance had effectively poked a hornet's nest. That's direct.
Wow. You don't often hear that kind of language about a sitting PM from within his own government coalition. It really shows you how much heat they were feeling from their base.
Absolutely. Lim Guanang didn't mince words. He confirmed it caused deep dissatisfaction in the Chinese community. And significantly, he also said the Democratic Action Party was already actively engaging with the Prime Minister's office.
To do what? Just clarify.
More than that, to push for a compromise. A solution that would let those long-standing customs and traditions continue without disruption. They needed a practical fix.
Which leads us nicely into Loke's next move, right? Shifting the argument inside the cabinet, away from theory, and towards, practical reality, ground-level stuff.
Yes, exactly. He brought the local context, the real-world situation in Malaysia, right to the cabinet table.
How did he do that?
He focused specifically on the Chinese primary school halls. He made it clear, look, alcohol is absolutely banned during student activities or school functions. Everyone agrees on that.
But the issue is when the halls are rented out.
That's the crux. When the community rents the hall for, say, weddings or fundraising dinners, that's a completely different scenario.
And those halls are important community hubs, aren't they?
Hugely important. Loke really stressed this point. In many smaller towns outside the big cities, that school hall might be the only place big enough for a large wedding or a community fundraiser.
So a blanket ban wasn't feasible.
He called it impractical. He argued you couldn't just impose a rule from the top without considering the local reality, the logistical necessity. It would seriously disrupt community life.
But he didn't just argue logistics, did he? He went for the cultural argument, too. Quite forcefully, I remember reading.
Oh, absolutely. He delivered what sounded like a very blunt, very memorable defense of the custom itself, cut right through the political speak.
Was the line?
He basically told the cabinet, and this is quite direct, if Chinese people host a wedding banquet and invite people for happy wine, shoot you, if there is no alcohol, then it is not a wedding banquet. What happy wine are we drinking without alcohol?
That really hits the nail on the head, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It frames it not just as drinking, but as an integral part of the cultural event itself. The happy wine is the celebration, in a way.
Precisely. He was highlighting what he called a diametrically opposite view on alcohol compared to the Muslim community. Not judging, just stating the cultural difference and the importance within that context. It forced the cabinet to see the cultural weight.
And how was the atmosphere in that cabinet meeting, according to Loke? Was it tense?
Interestingly, no. Loke actually mentioned that cabinet discussions generally over the past 3 years have been quite harmonious, calm, consultative. He said this alcohol issue was the very first item they tackled right after the controversy broke.
That suggests a certain level of responsiveness, or maybe damage control kicking in fast.
Probably a bit of both. Loke confirmed he'd actually called Anwar the night before the cabinet meeting.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And apparently the prime minister was already well aware of the situation. He knew about the widespread concern, the messages flooding in. He wasn't caught off guard by the time the meeting started.
So the system worked, eventually, despite the initial fumble.
That seems to be Loke's narrative. The final decision in cabinet was quick, it was unanimous, and it was clear.
Which was?
They decided to maintain the status quo, keep the existing regulations and the customary practices for serving alcohol in those rented-out Chinese primary school halls. Full consensus.
And it wasn't just the Democratic Action Party pushing for this, was it? Luke mentioned others agreed.
That's right. He made a point of saying that other prominent figures, people like Mohammed Hassan, even Carrie Jamaluddin and Sharil Hamdan, not exactly DAP allies traditionally, they also seem to agree that alcohol in this specific context hadn't really been an issue before.
So a sense of practicality prevailed across the board, maybe.
It suggests that, yes, that maintaining the existing working arrangement had broader support than just one party's interest. Common sense, perhaps.
So looking back at the whole episode, what's the main takeaway for people watching how this unity government works?
I think it shows how quickly a cultural spark can become a political fire, but also how the government, in this case, managed to navigate it. Loke's approach seemed to reinforce his story about trust with Anwar, and ultimately, practical needs and long-held customs won out over a sudden, unclear policy change.
It's definitely a fascinating case study in governing a multicultural society like Malaysia. It really throws that balancing act into sharp relief.
That constant negotiation between national rules and local cultural realities.
And it leaves you wondering, doesn't it? How do you find that perfect balance? How much uniformity can you impose from the center before you start damaging the very fabric of local community life and tradition? That's the ongoing challenge.
Indeed. It's the tightrope they have to walk every day.
Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this.